Hello everyone, got a great resource I want to share with you. This is a totally free website that I use on a regular basis. I not only use it to satisfy my own curiosity as I'm doing personal study, but I regularly use this resource for sermon preparation. And I do have a Bible study software that I use called Logos, and it has lots of great resources in it as well. But I find that most of what I need, at least for quick reference, is right here in this website. Easy to find, simple to use, and totally free. So it is called blueletterbible.org, and I want to show you some interesting things and features within here. Now, there's a lot of things as you look at the screen. There's news and verse of the day, and apparently they want to connect with us and all of this. I never mess with any of that. Feel free to. You can donate, although it is free. They do, of course, appreciate donations to help keep them going so they can maintain this for free. Let me show you just how I use this really quickly, though, and I'm going to try to be as brief as I can be, but still show you the depth of what's available here. So I'm going to search. I want to study a verse, and for simplicity, I'll pick the one that we're surely all familiar with, and that's John 3:16. And I'm going to select my version. You can select any of these Bible versions. And to view it, although there are some features that are only available, like there's features that aren't available with the New King James, which is what I generally read, and that are available with the King James, and it'll just jump you back and forth as necessary when that happens. So you might be surprised while you're doing some research, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think this looks like King James. Yeah, it's because that resource is only available attached to that version. But I generally search with New King James, hit search, and it actually pulls up the verse in the context. So it doesn't pull up the verse by itself, which is something I really like. It's something I think is important as you're studying personally, but if you're going to teach as well. And you can jump around to different verses, and there's different options at the top. You can change your version, etc., etc. You can figure all that out. I just want to show you the core features here, though. So I got John 3:16 here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the verse itself. Now, there are a lot of other things. I mean, you can copy it. There's tools where you can select it this way. You figure all that. I'm just showing you how I use it so you can see. When you click on the verse, it brings up that verse, and this, of course, is it's Greek to me because it's Greek to all of us. So that's Greek, and that's called the reverse interlinear. Greek is written backwards, so to speak. It's not that simple, but it kind of is. And so what they do is they flip it around the right way for you. It's called the reverse interlinear. Interlinear means it is essentially a word-for-word comparison between the Greek word that was used, or the Hebrew word that was used, or the Aramaic word that was used, depending on what it was originally written in, and the English word that it's translated to. So you can see that direct connection. And so, if you ever heard, me doing a message, and I was like, well, the Greek word for this is blah, 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 and that sounds all smart, but it's really just, it's not that smart. I just went to the verse here in blueletterbible.org and pulled this up. So anyway, on the tab that says interlinear, it gives it to you here, and as you hover over the Greek word, it'll show you, you can see the hover, you can see the highlight happening at the bottom, and the reverse is true too. And there's a few options that are available to you right here. For example, I'm gonna draw this one out, okay? One word that I think is really interesting in John 3:16 that we will probably gloss over is the word that's translated to world. For God so loved the world. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that he loved everything? Does it mean that he loved the earth itself? Does it mean that does that mean people, like human beings or sinners, or what does that mean? Well, here we can look and we can see the word that John used when he wrote this. For world, he used the word cosmos, which might be familiar to you. And I know, not Cosmo Kramer, it's not a Seinfeld reference. Cosmos, all of creation, everything, right? We actually, you see that in Greek, and you already know, oh, I think I know what that is, okay? And there's a few options available to you here. You can see it, of course, in Greek, and it also has the root here. It has it, this is the what do they call it? So transliteration, yeah, the transliterated version, which is a Greek word put into English letters so we can understand it and read it. It also pronounced the word for you, which is cool in case you, I think it's cosmos. Let's see how close I am. Is it cosmos? Mute off.
Strong's G, 2889. Cosmos. Cosmos.
Yeah. That was in the ballpark. Cosmos. All right. So you have that, and that's really basic. But you can get a lot more depth if you just click right here. This is Strong's is a dictionary, a Greek dictionary, and it's gonna take us to a page specifically dedicated to that word, cosmos. And it's going to give us not only Strong's, but a lot of other resources with that word, so we can understand what is this word really about. I'm going to click on it. Now we have the word up here and the transliteration and the pronunciation. Again, you can listen to it if you want to. Part of speech, the root word, Greek inflections, these are other variations of that word. Okay, and then other dictionary aids. Vines is similar to Strong's, but it's different. Different style of information. Others. The translation count, and this is in the King James Version. I told you that sometimes it would kick you around versions. But the King James translates that word shows up 187 times. 186 of them, it translates it to the word world. And one time, it translates it to the word adorning. I don't know what the deal is with that, but that could be an interesting thing to look into. After that, we get the outline of biblical usage. This is really helpful to me. It basically is a definition of how that word is used in the scripture. An apt or harmonious arrangement or constitution, order, government, the world, the universe, the circle of the earth, the inhabitants of the earth, the ungodly multitude. So basically, here's what it means. Cosmos means everything, right? So to me, this is one of those things where when you understand this word, God so loved, agape, that's unconditional love. If you caught that on the page before. God so loved the world, loved everything, that he gave his only begotten Son. And begotten is another interesting word study in here, if you might want to check that one out on your own. What does it mean that Jesus is begotten as opposed to us or not? Anyway, so that gives you an understanding of how that word, and this opens up to me, it opens up this verse beautifully, that everything benefits because of God's love and because of what he did through Christ. Really cool. So you've got the outline of the biblical usage, and then Strong's definition. As I said, that's a Greek dictionary, basically. Orderly arrangement, decoration, implication, the world in a wide or narrow sense, including its inhabitants, literally, figuratively, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's a pretty broad word. And then Thayer's Greek lexicon. What I love about Thayer's is that it not only tells you how that is used in Scripture, but also how that Greek word was used outside of Scripture. And you get other references so that you know that the definition we're looking at is not just limited. It's how Greeks would have talked when they, people who spoke Greek. This is how they would have communicated, whether it was Bible or something else, which I think is really interesting and helpful. And then at the bottom, this is also, I often will look at this. This is everywhere in the Bible that particular word, cosmos, can't remember if I'm saying that right now, cosmos is used. So when it's used 187 times, that might not be a super helpful list, but sometimes you find a more specific word or a less common word, and it's really cool to be able to see who else used it, where they used it, and how they used it. You can just choose other things down here. All right, so this is just, this is super helpful. You don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure this out and to do a word study. And it'll really help to open up Scripture to you. Let me show you a few other features here. I'm going to go back a page. That's all that we can find by under this interlinear tab. On the Bibles tab, we'll show you that same verse in all these other translations. So you want to see how another translation put it? You can see it right there. Cross-references, these would be related verses, and often in a print Bible, these would be dictated by a very small number, what do they call that? Superscript? A superscript number or letter, and then it would have that reference down at the bottom where you could go read another verse that pertained to it. Those are there under cross-references. Under commentaries, there's tons of stuff here. There's almost too much stuff here, frankly. There's some good things here. Some of this, a commentary, if you're not familiar with what that concept is, a commentary is simply somebody else's thoughts about that passage. So it's a pastor, a theologian, a teacher who does an analysis of that verse and puts their thoughts in here. So you can see there's text commentaries. Chuck Smith has a ton of them. There's lots of things here. The fact that John 3:16 says that Jesus is God's only begotten Son indicating that we are not the same as Jesus, that Jesus is different than us, is an important argument in the defense against Jehovah's Witnesses, for example. So there are some commentaries and things here. I will just tell you, you got to be careful with so much information here. There are people that have written things that you may agree with theologically, you may disagree with theologically. So just do a little research on the source and make sure you're comfortable with the source before you take an idea and run with it. Because there's lots of things from different people and pastors in here, sermon notes and audio sermons and videos and all sorts of things. I'll point out a couple here that I use fairly regularly. I'll often read Matthew Henry. He speaks in language very similar to like King James English, okay? And so it can be a little difficult to read, but I find his perspectives on things can be quite beautiful and insightful at times. So I do like reading Matthew Henry. And I'll often read Jamieson Fawcett Brown as well because they focus more on the words and the phrases and understanding what that word or that phrase is intended to mean. Rather than just a word study, they'll talk about concepts, and that can be incredibly helpful as well. The rest of this, just make sure you filter through. I will tell you my favorite commentary, unfortunately, is not available in Blue Letter Bible, and that's the Bible Knowledge Commentary, but you can find that from another source, or you can purchase a copy, or if you really want to check that out. It is also available through Logos Bible Software, which is where I read it, which is paid software. Okay, and then as we're looking at the tabs, just a couple more. The dictionaries, of course, we already talked about these. I would never access them this way. I would always go through the other way that we did to access a Greek dictionary. And then under miscellaneous, there can be some interesting stuff here. The word clouds are not interesting, but the maps and pictures and things there's timeless, the timeline right here. These can be helpful and very interesting to check out as well. So great resources there, and I don't know if you want to check out that music or not, but I'll leave that ball in your court. Okay, so that's it. That's the way that I use it. I'm sure there's tons of other stuff on this website. I've just never found a need for them or desire to go figure out what they are. The ability to study one scripture and to do a word study and to read a commentary about it and to be able to do that for free is incredible. So I want to strongly encourage you, whether you're teaching or whether you're doing your own personal study, check out blueletterbible.org. Make sure you favorite that thing and that you got access to it. They also have an app that you can download for your phone and mobile device, and that's worth having as well. So I strongly want to encourage you to use it. It's a great resource at your disposal. And man, I just think about how many generations of people didn't have access to something like this, and the ability we can open up a website, study a verse in this level of depth, and be able to truly understand what God is trying to say to us is it really is a privilege, and it's an honor and it's a blessing. So take advantage of it, and I hope that it helps you as much as it has helped me.